All right, good morning. We've got some lingering morning flurries. Roads, for the most part, seem to be pretty decent. I think it kind of depends on where you are, which is, that kind of goes without saying, right? Here in Vermont, especially out in the North Country. But daytime highs later today around 31. I think we're about 10 below that right now, about 21 degrees. So we're going to warm up a little bit. But, man, that cold front coming in last night, bringing those isolated squalls, pretty intense in some areas across the state. And other areas, not so much. Looks like tonight, overcast, flurries, snow showers possible. We'll get down around 27. And then tomorrow, 13th of January. We're already almost into the middle of the month here. Incredible. We're looking at a mix of sun and clouds in the morning, mostly cloudy by the afternoon, and daytime highs tomorrow, even milder, around 37 degrees. Wow, what a weekend. For my family, we were with our family out of state and just had such a wonderful weekend, ate some great food, had some great laughs, and experienced just some wonderful time together. It was just a great weekend. But, man, Monday morning, it's tough to come off of a crazy weekend and hit the ground running. But, man, we're trying. And the football games, wow. Rams over the Packers on Saturday. Watched that one, 34-31. Bears took the Packers 31-27. And that was an incredible game. Yesterday, 49ers, a 23-19 win over the Eagles. Bills take the Jags 27-24. Wow. And the Patriots just destroying the Chargers 16-3. Texans and Steelers tonight. My brother's house is just, I think they're probably even going to have a seance before the game. It wouldn't surprise me. Good morning to you. I hope you're off to a great start. I hope that you've had a chance to have a cup of coffee. You're feeling positive. You're looking forward to a great work week ahead. It is almost impossible to not be positive when I am surrounded by great people like the guy that is on the couch right next to me right now, Josh Miller from Vermont Fatherhood. Good morning, my friend. How the heck are you?
Good morning. Doing pretty well this morning. I got my coffee, so I'm rearing to go on Monday morning.
I see. I've only had one cup. How about you? Are you on, what is this? Is this one or two?
This is number 2.
Man, it's great to see you, brother. I'm so, like I said, I always feel good when I'm around you, man. You just exude this positive vibe, and you're just a great guy. It has been a real blessing to have met you just a couple of months ago. You're going to be on with me the second Monday of every month.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
We're going to be talking about fatherhood. And I really enjoyed that last conversation that we had. You first of all, tell our listeners what Vermont Fatherhood is. You've got an actual location right here on Main Street in Barrie.
Sure, yeah. Vermont Fatherhood is a nonprofit organization. Started about 6-7 months ago, right over here in downtown Barrie at 124 North Main Street, right above Wabi Jewelers. And we got a nice space up there to meet with dads and have kids and do childcare. And for them, we're meeting in groups. And it's really just the mission of Vermont Fatherhood is just to really value dads. Make sure they know they're important, and support them with all the challenges that come with parenting, and sprinkle a little education so they know a little more and feel a little more confident about themselves as parents, and then really just building a community for dads to be able to come and meet other dads and hear their stories and know that we're not alone out there in the long haul of parenting. So yep.
And on Tuesdays you have a special gathering, for lack of a better term, over at Vermont Fatherhood.
Yep. We do a Tuesday night dads group. It's drop in, so you don't have to call ahead. If you got kiddos and you want to call ahead, just come check out the space. You're welcome to. But it's 5 to 7 on Tuesdays. We provide dinner. We have childcare. The dads, kids come in and settle in, and then the dads meet in another room and just talk about various things. Talk about being a dad. Talk about how our week has been, and checking in, and then we might talk about something like routines or nutrition or what seems to be the theme for us. But just a time to connect with each other, and we get to take our kids with us. So that kind of sometimes can be called Mom's Night because mom can have a little freedom to hang out.
Sure. What kind of reception have you had so far with this? How has this been over the last couple of months? These Tuesday night gatherings, because dads can, guys, we can get a little weird about stuff like this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's it's like, what's this dads group thing? Like, who's this guy? Like, you just don't know. Right. So you come in and you're like, and reveal your soul to a bunch of strangers. I think it's been, to answer your question, it's been good. We get anywhere from 3 to 6 or 7 guys, and it's actually a great group size when you have, 5 or 6 guys together. It's dynamic, and guys from different situations, but also guys with some common situations, and might be single dads, might be dads of, daughters or whatever it is. And I think it's just finding those common threads, but also be able to, get different things from each other. And it's just super low key. Yeah. We have guys walk in and they don't know what to expect. And you got some food, you got a cup of coffee, and you get to hang out and just, kind of just be yourself. It's not a hard lift, and it's not, I don't think it's after the first 5 minutes, it's pretty comfortable.
It's not like a therapy session where we're sitting down and only talking about feelings and stuff like that. It's more low key than that. It's casual.
Yeah, it just come in and it is not therapy. Things may come up, and if you want to talk about your feelings, by all means. If you want to talk about something else that's going on for you, it's pretty open. We leave it really open ended, and I think guys again feel comfortable pretty quick once they get to know other guys, see other guys, and that's the whole point. And other opportunities too to just come and talk about being a dad, and it's pretty easy, I think.
Yeah, usually parents as a whole, male, female, doesn't matter. We like to talk about our kids, and we always have, most of us anyway, have stories to share. Some of them are very funny. I've got a whole drawer full of funny stories about my kid. I mean, It's almost daily something that she says or does. But also, we can talk about maybe some challenges that we're up against. My little girl's 11, and already, I mean, there's parts of her where she's acting like 18, 19, 20, and I've got other dads who are, and I'm kind of an old dad, but I've got friends who are her dads that are saying, bro, buckle up because you ain't seen nothing yet. And I'm like, really? Yeah. I don't know. Some of this is like I get a little intimidated. Yeah. What's coming? Yeah. Can get the attitude could get more intense than what it is right now, Josh.
Yeah. It's
what?
Well, you have a daughter, and I've got 4 boys, and I think there's attitude that comes in different ways, and I've got 2 teenagers, so I'm definitely whether it be the morning or whether it be hey, you got to take out the trash. Hey, you got to do this. You got to do that. Boy, it comes. Where's your homework? I mean, it comes, and what do you do with it? You can meet it head on, but I'm actually gonna get my 17-year-old. I'm gonna take him out after I got 8 o'clock tonight. We're gonna go out and have a little heart to heart, little man to man about responsibility, but yeah, that's and just he's on the verge of adulthood, and we got to have some conversation.
So is it a conversation or is it a lecture?
Well, I remember my first son many, many years ago. I remember I learned about lecturing, and I remember going on and literally lecturing for like 20 minutes. And I looked over and he was asleep. And I just realized that that's not the way to do it. It's got to be, he's got to be, if I want something to happen, he's got to be a part of the conversation. And so there's got to be a little bit of lecturing, but it's got to be like, hey, so what are you going to do? You know, got to put it on him as a 17-year-old guy to ante up a little bit in the conversation.
Question here: how does fatherhood intersect with being a husband?
Oh my gosh!
Oh
Wow.
my God, I know. Geez.
Well, I think that I would say early on, you know, when you're together with someone and you know you start having kids, boy, you'll start discovering a whole lot about each other. You know, you might come from different backgrounds.
Yeah.
You know, you have different expectations, like, you know,
Oh,
whatever it might be. Like, it is hard. I mean, I make the statement, whether true or not, in my head, I say sometimes co-parenting is harder than parenting. You know, just having that, you know, this is how we're going to do it. No, this is how we're going to do it. And the kids are right there hearing these different messages. And,
Sure.
and I think it's a lot of work. It's also really great to have somebody else by your side to share the load. I mean, it's not just all like, oh, it's not fun. It's hard. It is so great to have someone there to, like,
Sure.
you know, share all the things that need to be done, because there are a lot of things that need to be done.
I am often trying to catch my breath and just take a step back and not be so reactive at home. A couple of the contentious topics at my house can be screen time and bedtime, but also dinner time. I want to, at times, put a sledgehammer through the tablet, especially when I was a kid. Again, I'm an old man here, but when I was a kid, you know, mom and dad would say, it's time for dinner one time. So whatever I was doing, I know, I see that look in your face. Whatever I was doing, whatever my brother was doing, we stopped. And dad would say, you know, out of respect to mom, who's been working hard and trying to get you a nice hot meal, you stop what you're doing and you come to the table right now. I don't want to ask you twice.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you and I are about the same age, and yes, there was not an option of, hey, just 2 more minutes. You know, it's you show up there and you know, set the table, whatever you got to do, and there's that now. I mean, we the battle of technology, and you know, it's
the battle of distraction.
Yeah, distraction, and gosh, they make those things so darn good, so darn fun. You know, I mean, kids do not want to get off them; they're hooked. And so, you know, but I think to your point when you were talking about not reacting and just being, I think, you know, I would say, and I can't say that I'm a pro at this, but setting good limits. You know, saying, hey, this is the time. I'm gonna give you a minute. You know, and then they can, you know, say I'm coming off, and then say like, oh, come to dinner when they're in the middle of something, but like say, hey, dinner's ready in 2 minutes. You need to be here in 2 minutes. Letting the expectation be clear, and then also when your kid doesn't show up at that time, you say, all right, looks like you're on cleanup duty. You're not here on time, whatever the thing is, or you're going to lose 5 minutes of your, you know, whatever the thing is. I mean, it doesn't have to be that way, but you set up the expectation, and I think that that's for a parent to be clear about that, and then you don't have to react. It's already set up, you know, and kids need those limits, and it's hard. It's hard as parents. You're busy, you get distracted into your own thing, and but I think being clear about, you know, what the expectations are from the get-go is important, and hard.
I want to talk to you about a huge conference that you were just at in New Hampshire. But first, I want to ask you what the difference is, in your opinion, between being a good dad and being a good human being.
I think they're a little hand in hand. I mean, they're you know, they both are important. I mean, I think being a good human being is being a good human being in and of yourself, not responsible necessarily for another person. But as a dad and as a, you know, like my kids are watching what I'm doing, right? So I'm teaching my kids to drive. One's driving already, one's on the verge. And so like they never did before until they got their permit. But boy, are they watching the needle on that speedometer. And so whatever I do, whether it's I'm
This is good.
yeah, whatever I do is that, they're like, my son said to me a few weeks ago, he said, "Oh, you only go slower because we're watching you." And I said, "Yeah, that's right, because I probably would be going faster if they were in the car." But knowing that they're paying attention, and it took me a while to realize they were paying attention that much. Whether I put my blinker on, all that stuff, like paying attention. And so then that's the same at home, right? So if somebody does something I don't like and I yell, they're gonna yell. Maybe it's not at me, but maybe at each other, maybe somewhere else. So they are really paying attention. So the difference is that a good dad is, I know that what I'm doing, they are taking mental notes. And when I allow myself to do something, gives them permission to do that thing, right? And so I really need to pay attention. And maybe I've gotten better over the years of like, okay, all right, they're in the room. What do I say? How do I say it? It really matters. As they get older, they really pay attention. But even when they're younger, they are paying attention, and they are learning things that we don't even know about ourselves. Our tone, our facial expressions, we don't see that. They are absolutely paying attention to what we're doing. And so I'd say it's a little more in being if it's a parent or dad around, being a good dad, good human, versus a good human being. I think it's just you are responsible for another human being paying attention to what you're doing, and you're teaching them even when you don't think you are.
There's so much stuff here unpacking here. Leading by example is something that for many dads can be challenging, especially when you and your partner are around other adults. You're all getting together. In our case, we have one child, and our child is there amongst us and observing and listening and watching mom and dad goof off a little bit around our other friends. And we can forget that that our kid is watching, is listening, is observing, even if they're in another room with the tablet on, having a chat with one of their friends. They're still listening. And this is something I'm really guilty of. I get caught up in the moment and I forget. We've talked. You and I've talked about leading by example. You and I have also talked about language, and just trying to be cognizant of what's coming out of your mouth when you're around your kids. That is not easy to do for some of us.
Yeah, it is. I think it is hard, and I think there's times when you just want to let down and not, always be, gosh, I've got to watch every single thing that I say all the time, sort of self-monitoring that. But I think that there's a balance of, yep, I might do that. I might let go a little bit, and a lot of the time I'm also, I'm on point. I'm, making sure that I'm watching what I'm saying. I'm doing, modeling the things that I want my kid to be doing. And we actually had a conversation in one of our groups about. I was like, what is it you want? What are the things you want your kids to exude? What are the things, the behaviors you want them to? So we had this whole list, and the guys had a great list. It was like they're rattling off all these things, and I said, what is it you need to be doing to make sure that they are learning those things? And we went from anywhere from just like, being respectful to being on time. And we just used some examples around that. And I think there's, I think there's an awareness, self-awareness of it, that it's not are really like thinking about what we're saying around our kids and what they're taking in. And I'll tell you, at 11 years old, your daughter's taking in a whole bunch of stuff. You know what I mean, right? She's taking in a lot of stuff about it. My teenagers are taking a lot of stuff of what I do. And I gotta just, when I'm loose with the tongue, I just need to be like, okay, I'm aware that I'm letting that go, and I need to tighten that up sometimes. And it's hard. It's hard
because
to
how can you
always
say,
be on.
How can you say don't do that if you are doing that, Josh, or saying that? I mean, because if you do, you're kind of a hypocrite.
Well, we grew up in a time as do as I say, not as I do, correct?
Yes.
That's the deal, right? And so I think there's a
know.
little bit of that. That still resonates for, I think, a lot of people. And, I think it's just, we do have to be aware. And I was working with a guy recently around his kids' language, and I was like, and I know that he, himself can curse a lot, and I was like, just be aware of that. You can't just have a swear jar for the kids. You got to be aware that what you're saying around them, if it's common all the time, that's just part of their vocabulary. It seems fine if parents are doing it all the time. But I think we just, we have to do our best. We have to check ourselves like, hey, I'm getting a little loose with that. I need to tighten that up, whether it might be expectations, might be language, might be content of what's being talked about. If we're talking about other people, like there's all these things. And I think it's, we just sometimes need to take inventory of how we are and check ourselves as best we can. And again, just try our best.
This is great advice for moms and dads. Especially, that then we go into a public setting like a sporting event at the school, and now it's not just your kid who's watching your behavior at this sporting event, but it's all the other kids who are watching Lily's dad and how he's reacting. Is he too loud? Is he not? Is he not cheering, or is he cheering too much? Or, and the other parents too that are watching.
Yeah.
Think about how you're going to be before you step into that gym. Maybe.
Yeah. We're social creatures, right? And just like that's just the way we are. We're watching other people. We're seeing what other guys do. And I think for guys especially, like, oh, if that guy does that, then I guess it's okay for me to do that too.
He screamed at the ref last week. Why can't I scream at the ref?
Sure. It is, and even as adults, like that. As a kid, you do that. As an adult, you're like, yeah, like that's what it is. So I talk a lot about how we, men give each other permission to do things, not directly. Just sort of, it's very like unconscious. But if I'd say, get the ref off the floor, that guy's a jerk, whatever, right? I'm letting other parents know that, they might jump on board and say, yeah, like he fouled my kid, blah, blah, blah. I was at a basketball game on Saturday. And just like, that's the stuff that happens. And we can get permission the other way, in doing things that are great. And so I think that's, realizing that, depending on our position, like if you're a coach, or you're, in charge of other people, like that stuff really matters,
Right.
and how we represent ourselves. And it's a lot of pressure sometimes to be always like, oh, how do I do the right thing all the time? But it does matter. It really does.
Josh Miller is the head of Vermont Fatherhood, a new organization right here in Barrie. Well, a couple of months old now, half a year old.
Yep.
Their mission is to value and support and encourage and educate dads. And I'll tell you, there's no perfect dad out there. So we all have areas to tighten up and to be better dads. Which is a 24/7 job, man. It is at least it should be. The programs and services that you provide are pretty extensive. What did you do in New Hampshire? You went to what? A seminar, right?
Yeah, it was a conference. It was a bunch of sort of doctors and nurses and, different levels, different people with a bunch of letters after their name. And it was about perinatal, I think it was perinatal quality improvement. And perinatal is like the time before the baby's born and the time after the baby's born. And I've always had this thing about, we need to engage dads early. And so I presented in front of all these like 200 some people around, engaging dads, when their partner's pregnant, and then during, and then after. And I just think that the value of that is so important. If we get guys feeling more comfortable and confident and engaged and valued, they're going to be more involved from the get-go. And I think that that's just an important thing. And I was actually blown away. So many of them were like, yeah, we don't do that. It was like over 200 people, like most of them, like, we need to do that. We really need to do that. And So I think the message was delivered for sure. I was getting nervous in front of a lot of people, but it went fairly well. And I think, my hope is that, if people will do that, even if I don't hear about it, that they see a dad and they say, welcome, welcome, come on in. And hey, how can I help educate that dad around what's going on with their partner when they're pregnant, and then what happens when I go home with the baby, and what happens after, and how can I get support, and really encouraging dads to ask for help. I mean, people just, we isolate ourselves, and how to say, I'm not quite sure how to do this dad thing. What can I do? And asking questions, and that it's okay. And we tend to tough it out and say, we got this. But I think if medical professionals are doing that from the get-go, it will have an incredible effect going forward of those guys being involved, and the mothers being supported, or the partners being supported, right? I mean, if you support the guy, the dads, they will be more supportive of their partners, and that's part of the whole thing is, knowing what to do and how to do it, and there's a lot of stuff around, depression that happens for moms, and if dads are more supportive, maybe we can prevent some of that. Maybe we can reduce some of that, and you get a family off to a healthier start.
I have said to you off the air that, man, it's like the times of today with what's going on in the world, what's going on digitally in that world. There's a lot of stuff that's happening. There's a lot of programming that's being fed to our kids, whether it's on social media, whether it's TV, whether it's stuff they're hearing at school. It can be pretty overwhelming for any parent, dad, mom, what have you, to take this stuff, dissect it, and to make sure our kids they're going to absorb it anyways, but what they do with that information and how they respond to it is the right decision. It's the right move, whatever it may be. And I don't need to break down what those areas are. But man, it's like you got to be dialed into your kid. You got to know what they're listening to. You got to know what they're hearing from others, and you need to be engaged with that. You need to be aware of what's happening.
Yeah.
And not just unplug and bury your face deep into your own social media and disengage. You need to have your ears and your eyes on what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's freaking crazy out there, man. I mean, it's like this is a different world. When I was a kid and when you and I were kids in the 70s, we were out riding the bicycle, climbing trees, getting hurt, digging holes in the ground. We weren't, there was no such thing as cyberbullying and cell phones and texting and all that stuff, man.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there, and we came across something with our one of our guys who got hooked into scam into investing in cryptocurrency stuff, and he's got his own world. He's on his own little phone. He's got plenty of time. There's not we probably don't have. We're not super strict around it, but just that he was able to navigate that and was, throwing money into it that was going away, that wasn't, and he was insistent that this was legit, and so it's really hard to do that. But I want to go back to the thing about it's a lot of stuff that comes across our kids, and it could be socially at school, even if you didn't have phones. Let's just take away the phones. Say, that's a big deal, but let's just say stuff that happens at school and social stuff and stuff that happens after school and in sports and all that. And just, I think that it is important that we have an engaged relationship with our kids, right? For a number of reasons, just because we show them that we love them, let them know. But also when stuff does come up, when our kids have a relationship with us and stuff does come up, that they feel like they can come to you and ask a question. Do you know anything about cryptocurrency? No? And it may have popped up at one point and I wasn't paying attention enough to realize that this might be an actual thing. Well, it became a thing, but paying attention to what our kids say, sometimes we say, oh, you didn't say anything about that. But actually they sometimes kids do say something. And so if we're paying attention, we have a relationship with our kids. And I mean, like, we spend time with them. We spend quality time with them where they feel like I could go to my dad, or maybe they choose their mom or whoever, but like, they can come, they feel like they can come to me if there's something that comes up, maybe it's about a girlfriend or whatever, relationship or a social thing. And that there's a, I think we maybe talked about this a little bit. There's an open door to be able to come talk about things. But I think it's about paying attention, being engaged, sometimes having to say, let's look at your phone. Sometimes, what are you looking at? What do who are you hanging out with at lunch? Oh, you're going over to so-and-so's house. Oh, do I know their parents? Like, there is some level of like, even though as our kids get older, we kind of can disengage, like, oh, they're young adult, they can do their thing. But still staying engaged shows that we care, and that kids make mistakes. They just don't know. They don't know how to handle it, let alone we don't know how to handle it. So I think being engaged and having that relationship with our kids can help, when those things come up, how can we be there to address it?
I said to you last time you were here with me, and I know I'm going to say it several times more. I probably will say it every second Monday of the month when I have you in here. But, my good friend Guy Babb, who passed away, one of the last things he said to me before he passed away was, and I know I said this to you a month ago, was who has 4 kids. And he was trying to give me some advice as a dad. Lily was very young, and he said, look at every situation as an opportunity. Even if you're really pissed, it's an opportunity to not raise your voice. It's an opportunity to respond in a way that is ultimately effective. Even if you're really angry, they screwed up. Maybe they did something that you specifically told them not to do, and they did it anyways. And now you're caught up with it as the parent, and you need to help them get out of this. You need to deal with it. But it's still an opportunity for you to stay on the tracks and not go flying off the handle, because so many of us feel like the louder I get, the more I punish, the more effective I am, and I'm doing my job as the father of the house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think there's that role of the authoritarian, the bottom, like, this is the deal.
Thank you.
And so that's in us a bit. And we might have grown up in that, as we were saying. Parents say something once, and like, you're like, okay, that's it. My
dad never had to raise his voice.
No, he didn't. And well, I think it depends on which household you're in, but I think that, it's, I remember that, if I raise my voice and if I just lay around those consequences, and how dare you, walk away from me, or how dare you, and just if I, ramp it up and I think that there's times when, I think we do have to raise our voice and let our kids know the level of things, like, this is serious. Like, you need to pay attention, you need to listen, be respectful, whatever the things are. But I think that there's also, like, to your good friend's point, just of, how do we learn from that? Like, is our default always raising our voice when our kids do something we don't like? And how can we say, gosh, I've yelled about this thing 17 times. Well, maybe there's something else I need to do as a dad differently than what I've been doing, and yelling, cursing, spanking, all the stuff, right? All the stuff. That's the stuff that we've learned, and maybe our upbringing, and that those things, what is it that we're teaching our kids about, how to be in the world? And I think that's part of the job of being a dad, is how do I teach my kid to be in the world? And if I'm screaming at him, if I'm swearing at him, if I'm hurting him, what am I teaching him? I'm not teaching him to be respectful. I'm not teaching him to be good to other people. Am I teaching him to listen to me? I don't know. Like, maybe I'm teaching him to be scared of me. What are the things? And so if I ultimately want my kid to be respectful and follow through, I need to set up clear expectations and consequences, and I need to have a relationship. I know I'm going to go back to that thing because I think our kids will listen. We have a relationship with them when we are spending time with them, quality time, and we're having fun, laughing, and doing the things that they like to do. Maybe listening to music we don't like to listen to, but we'll listen to it with them.
No.
That
was last night for me. Seriously.
Taylor Swift again, huh?
No.
Oh,
no. It was some rap with some language.
Oh, okay.
I was like, wait.
I got that.
I was like, wait. Hold on a second. Did they just say what I thought they said? Back it up. But anyway, go ahead.
I think that when we have that relationship, and when the hard things come up, that it's a little easier for our kids are more likely to listen to us and say, I've kind of been a jerk, or I have not been taking care of my stuff. I've not been doing this stuff. They're not going to necessarily do that. I'm just saying that if we have a relationship and we're engaged with them in different ways, not just being the punisher, I think that's important. And I think a lot of guys grew up that's how their dad, kind of raised them. They were the authoritarian. They paid the bills and they, had the roof over their head, but they worked a lot and they weren't around, didn't really have that relationship. And there's a lot of distance between them. And I think that, having a close relationship with your kids is so important, because when the stuff does come up, whether it's really serious stuff or it's accountability or it's, hey, this thing's happening with this kid, or I really like this girl, you can have a conversation with them about it. And hopefully, they're not going to always do what you want, but hopefully they can hear you and you can hear them. And there's no perfect science for sure. But I think that your friend's point of it is an opportunity to connect. And it's connecting about the hard stuff is good. I always feel great. Did I tell you this last time? I had the birds and bees conversation with my 15-year-old not that long ago.
You told me that it was going to be happening. How did it go?
Oh,
how did it go?
It was incredible. I mean, I was like, am I talking to an adult here? This guy's a little more mature for his age. And we had an incredible conversation. He was asking about me and my choices when I was younger. And it was really a great conversation. He was very clear and he really heard it. And, but it was, the groundwork was, we spent a lot of time together and we were able to talk about a difficult conversation. It was super awkward, like to start out with. But once we started going, and I think that's but I attribute that to because, we spend time together and it's not always about the difficult conversations, but that the quality time leads to an easier, difficult conversation.
And you know what that was? There was an opportunity. And you could have just brutally screwed it up. You could have, but it sounds like you very much did not.
Yeah, I mean, I felt lucky in this one that he's able to have that kind of conversation, and I give a lot of credit to him because he's a 15-year-old guy.
Yeah,
talking about that stuff is not easy.
Right.
He was able to do it. So really, I can't take that much credit for it.
We talk about opportunities, man. It's. Lily said something to me a couple of weeks ago that really it did two things to me. It hurt me, but it also infuriated me. Both at the same time, which was anyway. I needed some distance, man. I was hot, and the next day, Lily had written an apology to me, and when I came home, there's just this look on Sherilyn's face of like, don't screw this up. Go with it. Like, again, this is your opportunity. Lily would like to speak with you. And she handed me the note, and I handed it back to her and said, no, I would, instead of me reading it, I would rather have you read it to me so you can hear your own words. I don't know what was in the note at that time, and she did. And this was my opportunity as a dad to just listen, and not to lecture, but just to listen to her heart and not have anything necessarily to return with the tennis racket. Just be quiet, listen. Maybe if you got a little follow-up stuff, maybe wait. Maybe wait. Maybe even till the next day. Hey, by the way, once the dust settles now, that letter that you wrote to me, I was thinking about it, and maybe also this, right? I don't know, man.
Yeah. Well, I think that, I don't know if people are aware of this, but when something comes up like that, you have actually a multiple choice. There's A, B, C, D, and E choices in front of you.
Oh, boy.
I could say, nope, I'm not interested in your apology.
Yeah.
Just shut it down, right? There is B, okay, I'd love to read your letter, whatever. Or C, you read to me. Or D, you can listen. Listen was great. Actually, I think that's a very small word, but very powerful, to just listen and not have the so strong, the compulsion to fire back, be defensive, especially if you were hurt and all these things. And just to listen, and that, I'll just tell you, just that skill is really hard for, I think, adults and human beings. And then I think, to your point, just come back around to it. Like, hey, I really, to really hear and to really, meet your daughter where she's at about the things that are going on for her. I mean, that is, first of all, wow. She wrote a letter to you, thought about it. I mean, how much thought went into not just the letter itself, but the thought, and then to bring it to you is incredible, and the way she needed to express it, she needed to write it down to give to you, and just realize the skills involved, be like, wow. Before anything, I'd say, like, I'm so proud of you for really, doing that. That's really amazing.
Well, she seemed, nervous and very uncomfortable, and I don't want her to feel nervous. I don't want her to feel like I'm going to take her opportunity to fire back and to light everything up and preach. I don't want her to feel that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that there's something about being aware of that, and there's just, things are emotional sometimes,
Yeah.
and like I said, we feel like we got to be the ones we have to say something, we have to do something about it, and I think, to be able to recognize, when I think it's a big thing to be able to say, like, I could have done that differently, and my son came home last night, and he was, I was like, he didn't fold the towels and put them up in the bathroom. And so he has a reason for everything, but I, instead of saying, hey, how's it going? How was work? Hey, dinner's up there for you. I was like, I had to tell him what he did wrong.
Right off.
And it was like, I have to, because it's been a frustration point, but that's where I went, and I think that's, how do we do that? But one of the things I'll tell you is repair is amazing. Just going back and saying, like, you know what? Like, I could have done that differently. Some people have a hard time saying I'm sorry, so you don't have to say that. You could say that, but you could say, hey, you know what? I could have done that differently. Whatever the thing is, you got to say. And what you can't do, say, like, I should have listened better, is in that moment to actually listen. Sometimes we'll do the same thing again. But the thing is, you did this, blah, 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 and I was so pissed off.
Sure.
And you just really shut down your kid again, and the opportunity could have been to listen.
Sure.
Instead, the opportunity is, I shut down my kid yet again. And after the 17th time,
yeah, right.
Guess what? She's not coming to you anymore.
Yeah.
She's not writing you any more letters. She's not worried about your feelings, And so how do we, the point I was making earlier of, like, what we do, when we respond to our kids is teaching them how to be in those situations.
Yeah. Josh Miller, my guest with Vermont Fatherhood right here in Barrie this morning. Visit vermontfatherhood.org. Stop into their Tuesday discussion groups. Tuesdays from 5 to 7, no appointment needed. They've got childcare. They provide dinner. Tuesday nights from 5 to 7, right above Wabi Jewelers. You also know, Josh, that when your kid is your age now and you're long gone, that he is probably most likely going to remember these tiny little things that you've frankly long forgotten, where he came home and was held accountable right off for not following through with his responsibilities, and that dad wasn't yelling and screaming and throwing things around the kitchen, really angry, but rather he was stern and said, hey, this is what is expected of you, and he's going to remember that. He's going to carry moments like that for his life.
Yeah. And Mary was saying when guys become dads, all the things about becoming a dad that they didn't know about, all the things that they grew up in start showing up,
Sure.
for better or for worse, right? And so I think that, it's, I'll tell you, I spent plenty of times yelling and doing that. And,
Sure.
After 34 years of parenting, I've learned better. But,
Yeah.
it's how do I, what do I want to instill in my kid?
What's ultimately going to be effective?
Yeah. And it takes a lot. It takes some self-awareness. It takes some practice. It takes some mistakes.
Yeah.
Watching other people and seeing that. And I think, we try to do our best. And we're trying to also, shift some things that we grew up in that
Sure.
may not have been so great. And sometimes it's hard to undo some of that stuff and take some time. But I think, that we're all capable of Vermont Fatherhood, bringing out the best.
Sure.
How do we bring out the best in ourselves through each other and learn from our mistakes and learn from other people's mistakes and,
Sure.
and be good dads.
And as a parent, but we're talking about dads here, but any parent, if in your gut that you overreacted or you were a little too hard or whatever, and your kid, you might have to eat some crow. You might have to be humbled here that your kid, that you really, in your gut, that you owe them an apology. Initially, when I became a dad and, Lily was getting old enough, my thing was, I'm her dad. I'm not going to apologize. But there were a few times that I can remember that I needed to own up and be accountable and say, hey, I did this, I said that, I shouldn't have, and I'm sorry, and will you accept my apology?
Yeah.
Those are coming from the parent, who's supposed to be the almighty powerful one here.
Yeah.
For them to do, for me to do that has been some pretty highly connective moments that I've had with my kid.
Yeah, I think, one of the things we want our kids to have is accountability.
Yeah.
For ourselves, for themselves, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we can say, you need to be accountable. You need to be responsible. You need to do this and that. And when you make a mistake, you need to, like, blah, blah, blah. But if I show my kid when I make a mistake, and it's true, truly, and I, say the words, I'm sorry, or my bad, I was wrong. Like, it doesn't make you less of a dad or less of a man. It just does not.
Oh.
How can I say, I didn't do that right, and I'm gonna do it differently. Even if you don't say that out loud, you can say that to yourself, like, I need to do a better job with that. I need to own that. And I think that that's so important to do. And again, we can say words and all that stuff, but if we're not doing it, we never own our stuff. Our kids, why would our kids? We're teaching them, we're showing them how to do it, how to be in the world, how to be with other people, how to be with each other, how to be in a family. And if we're not able to do that, well, we can't expect it. I think it's important that we are able to do that for our kids and man up and apologize when the time. And I would say also doing that with our partners in front of our kids. Like, you know what?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't mean to yell. I'm stressed and blah, 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 whatever the thing is. But doing that is powerful. And that, and again, it doesn't make you less of a husband. It's like, you know what? You did something and it wasn't cool.
But you got to admit, brother, for many of us,
yeah,
ego gets in the way.
Absolutely. And it's really, I'm not saying it's easy. It's really hard. And it's really, and I think we do think like, well, if I apologize, if I say that I was wrong, well, I'm not the man,
Or I'm 70% sorry, but I'm not 100%. So because you played a role here too. So unless I'm 100% sorry, then I'm not going to say I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I think, I think that that you can keep that one in your head of like, yep, I could have done that better. And, we need to figure this out because I'm not totally in the wrong here. However, we figure that out. Negotiating that with our partners, negotiating with our kids, all that stuff, it's hard. It takes skill, and there's a lot of emotion behind it. There's ego behind it. I'm saying things that are hard stuff that, I say it. I can say it all day,
yeah.
JD. To do that is really hard. But I think that, and you don't have to do it every day. Hopefully you don't have to do it every day. But every once in a while when we misstep, own that.
Sure.
And let our kids know that, hey, I was in the wrong here, and, I'm letting you know.
Parenting is, and my brother tells me this all the time, the hardest job. It is. It can be incredibly difficult. And if you think you got this, you'll figure it out on your own, you might be missing the boat, man. Bounce your stuff off of your other friends who are parents, your other family members who are parents. Bounce stuff off of folks like yourself. Come in, maybe have a one-on-one discussion of, I do this well and this well and this well, but this is one area where I need a little bit of guidance, man. Yeah. It's tough. Yeah. And we let pride get in the way.
Yeah, we talk about pride a lot, actually, a group. But, yeah, absolutely. And I think if there is something like, you got nothing to lose other than, maybe some poor parenting, habits that we do. If you come in and talk with somebody about, it could be me, could be another, guy, but like, hey, gosh, I'm struggling with this thing. How do I do it differently? My kid's driving me nuts, blah, 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 whatever the thing is. And to hear other ways that people do it. Sometimes we only know one way, but hearing other people talk about how they deal with it, it can be really helpful. And I don't think any parent should do it alone. Reach out to, I think I appreciate, your friends, your, family or whatever. It says, I'm just not sure. And again, that's hard to do. It's hard to do as a man. Like, oh, what am I saying? I'm a bad dad because I'm not sure how to do this. It's there's a lot of feelings around it. And I think it's, you have very little to lose, then you ask for help on any issue. I think it's important, and I'm always willing to have a one-on-one conversation. I'll get the coffee pot ready. We'll have some coffee. We'll talk about it, and we'll sort it out. We'll come up with some ideas.
Even if you disagree, and we're going to play tennis for a little while.
Yeah.
That you still welcome that.
Yeah. I mean, I want, people, if somebody comes in and just says, hey, I'm really having a struggle with this thing, I'm like, first of all, that's huge to be able to just say that. But I mean, they're like, well, I do this. Well, this is how I've done it for so many years. And I was like, well, what about this? What about that? And asking questions. I'm not there to judge, I'm just here to like, hey, here's some other
You're also
choices.
not the perfect father that has all the answers to everything.
No, just interview my kids. They'll tell you I am absolutely not the perfect father. Yeah, I don't know, and the thing isn't that I'm not here to like tell you the answer and how to parent. That's not what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm saying here's some other ideas. What are you looking for? What's your end, goal here? Let's talk about some ways to do it and see if that's feasible for you. You know what I mean? And some things, some things might stick, and say like, well, it's worth a try. Worth a try something different because what they might be doing now might not be working. So, but there's, like I said, there's you have a multiple choice set of responses you could have as a dad. And it always rolls down for me. I always think they're like, okay, you could be doing this, you could be doing this, you could be doing this. And you do have choices. And you just may not be aware of those choices. And so, but if you became aware of what those choices were, you may not feel so stressed about those situations that come up as a parent.
Tell me about your dad.
I don't know my dad. I don't know anything about him, JD. I don't know what he looks like. I don't know his name. I don't know anything. So the sad part about that is that I always sort of struggle with my identity. Who am I as a man, as a dad? The other part is I get to make it up. I get to say, this is the dad I get to be. I don't have to undo what my dad did or didn't do, right? So it was a hard thing growing up, I think, especially as a teenager, not having a dad, not having really any particular male role model that was active in my life. And then I became a dad. So that was a trip, right? 19
How
years
many
old.
times did you become a dad?
4 times. First one was 19, and trying to figure it out as I went along there, and I remember I was in southern Vermont driving on Main Street in Brattleboro, and I said to myself, I realized at this moment, kind of letting go some of the pain, I said, I get to be any dad that I want to be. I get to be the dad that I choose, that I create.
Or that you always kind of needed and wanted.
That I always wanted. Oh my gosh. And so I did. So I became the dad that played really well.
That's huge.
I was a good player. I was great at playing. Great. I'm not as great anymore because I'm a little more tired. But I was great at playing with my kid. And I had a lot to learn about parenting. But playing with your kid, having fun with your kid, being silly with your kid, reading to your kid. Oh my gosh. So much for me. Healing, not having a dad, doing that with my son was huge. It really filled a big void in my life.
What do you say to a dad who is screwing stuff up right now and justifying it? Maybe, hey, this was the way I was raised. I had a horrible dad or a horrible father, and damn it, I'm emulating him. I'm doing the same thing, whatever it may be.
Yeah,
I'm hitting my kid, or I'm drinking too much, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm losing time. I've screwed up. I'm screwing up currently. It's too freaking late. I've punched my ticket. There's nothing I can do about it now. What do you say, Josh?
It's never too late. I had a dad I remember years ago came in, showed up, and he was like, is this the place they talk about being a dad? Because I've been a really crappy dad, and I don't know what to do about it. I still get goosebumps thinking about this guy coming in. I was like, you were a dream to me. Coming in, and you really just said, I want to be a better dad. And so, first of all, that's great. And then in terms of like, what I would say to a guy, if I was meeting with a guy and talking about something, like, well, what kind of dad do you want to be? What kind of dad did you want when you were 5 years old? What did you want to do with your dad? Okay. All right. You want him to play. You want to have him teach you how to ride a bike. You want to, go run in the woods and build a fort. Well, let's figure out how to do that. What do you not want to do as a dad? I don't want to scream, yell, hurt. Okay. Let's come up with some other ideas about how you would deal with those situations. Let's just talk about it. Some other ideas. The thing about this working with dads, is one is it's absolutely free. Number 2 is you could change at the drop of a dime. You could start doing things different right away.
Even though it might not be easy.
You just got to show up. You got to show up and ask the question, what do I do? How do I do this? You know? And I think when we put that out there, you know, like, I want to be a better dad. And it could be one thing, could be lots of things. You know, put that out to me, to the world. Things will happen. Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
So much.
Great to be here.
You're off to meet with another dad.
Yep.
And, man, what you do is incredible. It's an amazing mission and vision, and I can't wait to chat with you again in a month.
Yeah.
Second Monday of every month, Josh Miller from Vermont Fatherhood is with me on the couch in the studio here at Aired Out. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, JD.